Welcome back, everyone. Hope you're still with energy for the last two sessions of this conference. In the end of this session, we will share the link for the feedback form, and we will share it on the chat box, okay? Because this way you can copy and then fill it in and submit it at the end of the conference. Just remind you that you can answer the questions of the speaker on the chat box, and if you have some questions, please type it on the Q&A chat box. We already have here our next speaker, José Moura Carvalho. He will be talking about fostering empathy to promote success and how we can do it now through online teaching. So I'm going to invite José to join us. Just a second. José? Hello? We can't hear you yet. Okay.
Hello, everyone.
I'll
start at 3, okay, at 4.
Yeah,
okay? Yeah, just
so
let me...
can everyone hear us and see us? Yes. Can you see the chat box there?
I can see the chat box, yes.
Yeah, because we had some problems in the previous session.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that everything is all right. And what about the Q&A chat, the Q&A box?
Q&A. Enquetes, is that it?
Sorry?
Yes, I've got this here. Right. That's from Vanessa. Okay. Right, can you hear me? Yeah?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I'll share my my presentation, okay, from now on.
Okay, thank you, Zé, on behalf of APPI for joining us and accepting our invitation to be here and share some of your ideas. And
okay,
so I will stop my video now, okay?
Okay, thank you very much, Sonia.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'll start in 2 minutes, if that's okay with you.
Okay. Do you have headphones there?
I do have headphones, yes.
Maybe the sound will be better.
Okay, here I am.
I think that's better.
Okay. Okay, I think I'm sharing the presentation now. I think it's everything's okay. I'll just right. Right. Well, first of all, thank you all for being here on a Saturday afternoon and for bearing with me for the next 45 minutes or so. Let me also congratulate APPI for this initiative. I hope this is the first of many such online events. I have entitled this presentation, Fostering Empathy, Promoting Success. In fact, I firmly believe that empathy can be taught and learned through English language teaching and learning. On the other hand, it is also my contention that if you're an empathic person, it's more likely than not that you'll be a successful person. In this session, I'll try to give you a view, albeit brief, of what empathy is, and then I'll go on to give you some examples of what can be done in the EFL classroom, not only to show students what empathy is, but also to develop this social and emotional competence in them for their own benefit, of course, but also possibly mainly for the benefit of those around them. Now, let's begin at the beginning. And the beginning is to define what empathy and what is and what also it is not. So let's have a look at the definition of empathy. Now, empathy is the imaginative act of stepping into the shoes of another person and viewing the world from their perspective. That means really trying to understand where someone is coming from, the feelings, beliefs, hopes, and experiences that make up their view of the world. Now, sometimes empathy is mistaken for other emotional competencies such as sympathy or pity, and I'll go on to give you to show you the difference between empathy on the one hand and pity and sympathy on the other hand. So let's have a look at this short text. It is important to understand that what empathy is and what it is not. If you see a homeless person living under a bridge, you may feel sorry for him and give him some money as he passes by. That is pity or sympathy, but not empathy. If, on the other hand, you make an effort to look at the world through his eyes, to consider what life is really like for him, and perhaps have a conversation that transforms him from a faceless stranger into a unique individual, then you are empathizing. So there is it may be thin, but it's an actual difference between pity and empathy on the one hand, and pity and sympathy on the one hand, and empathy on the other. I would say that, for example, charity derives from pity and sympathy, and solidarity derives from empathy, and that's I think, a big, big difference. Okay, now that we've got, that we've defined empathy, being what it is and what it is not, let me show you a bit of what Roman Krznaric has to say about this. Now, this is a British philosopher who's been rather involved in developing and showing what empathy is. He studied at Oxford and London and Essex, where he studied political sociology, and now he fosters empathy a bit all over the world. He runs a website on empathy library, as we'll see later on, and he's very active in this field. I'm going to, not to show you the video because it gets very intermittent on Zoom. So I'll show you the audio. I'll pass the audio, okay, so that you can hear him speak a bit about empathy during a TEDx talk in Athens in 2015. Okay, I'll try to do this now. Let's have a look. Okay.
We live in an age of hyper-individualism, an era in which an overdose of free market culture and simplistic self-help have led us to believe that the best way to lead the good life and achieve human happiness is to pursue our narrow self-interest, to follow our personal desires. In a way, the question, what's in it for me, has become the leading question of our time. And I believe we urgently need an antidote. And that antidote is empathy. But what is empathy? Empathy is the art of stepping into the shoes of another person and looking at the world from their perspective. It's about understanding the thoughts, the feelings, the ideas and experiences that make up their view of the world. It's about understanding where another person is really coming from. Now, we all know that empathy makes a difference in our everyday relationships. You've probably had experiences where you've been arguing with your partner or your husband or your wife, and you thought to yourself, oh, I wish they just understood my point of view. I wish they understood what I was feeling. What are you asking for there? Empathy, of course, right? But empathy can do more than help in our relationships. Empathy can create radical social change. Empathy, I believe, can create a revolution. Not one of those, old-fashioned revolutions of new laws and institutions, public policies, but a revolution of human relationships. And we urgently need this revolution because of a growing global empathy deficit. In the United States, for example, empathy levels have declined by nearly 50% over the last 40 years. The steepest decline has been in the last 10 years. At the same time, we have worldwide growing social divides. In 2/3 of Western countries, the gap between rich and poor is greater today than it was in 1980. At the same time, over 1 billion people in the world are living on less than $1 a day. Everywhere we turn, we see the conflicts caused by religious fundamentalism, ethnic tensions, and anti-immigrant sentiments. We urgently need empathy to create the social glue to hold our societies together and to erode the toxic us versus them mentality that is the cause of so much conflict. Now, there's good news, which is that 98% of us, say the neuroscientists, have the ability to empathize and step into somebody else's shoes. Our brains are wired for empathy. We are Homo empathicus. But very few of us have really reached our full empathic potential. And as a society, we haven't yet really learned to harness the power of empathy to create social and political transformation. And that's why I'd like to talk to you today about 8 ideas which I think can create and start a global empathy revolution. The first is to train up the next generation. Empathy can be taught and learned. It can be learned just like riding a bike or learning to drive a car. It's best to learn it when you're young.
So let's go on. Let's go back to the presentation after this, okay? Right. Now, I quite like Krznaric. He's very empathic. He's a philosopher, but I also think he's a very practical person. And he says that, as you've listened, as you've heard, that we can actually teach empathy. It's not something in the air which cannot be taught or learned. It's actually something which can be taught and learned. Okay, so that's also my contention, that you can at the same time teach and at the same time also learn what empathy is. Now, I'll go on to another author, which whom I like very much. Okay. Now, let's go on to Michele Borba. Michele Borba is an educational psychologist. She's American, and she's been publishing a lot of books on matters to deal with psychology. And one of them, her latest, is titled Selfie, and why empathetic kids succeed in our all about me world. This is a very interesting title, Selfie. She says, if we want our kids to be better prepared for the future, then it is crucial that we give them ample opportunities in schools to learn, to develop, and to spread empathy. And she also says, why empathy? The ability to empathize affects our kids' future health, wealth, authentic happiness, relationship satisfaction, and ability to bounce back from adversity. Now, these are not claims made out of thin air. These are claims based on research. And in the book, she gives all the articles, she cites all the articles which these claims are based on. It promotes kindness, pro-social behaviors, and moral courage. And it is an effective antidote to bullying, aggression, prejudice, and racism. Empathy, she says, is the core to, sorry, let's have a look at the up somewhere. Empathy is the core to everything that makes a society civilized, but above all, it makes our children better people. In the past decades, our kids' capacity to care has plummeted while self-absorption has skyrocketed. Today's culture values me more than we. So what Michele Borba is telling us is that empathy is one of the core competencies that kids nowadays should be taught, should learn to counteract really the effects that this selfie culture has on them. So we've seen what empathy is, what it is not, why empathy, what an empathy revolution could be and could bring about. And now we're turning our attention to the next bit of this presentation, which is to present to you a framework which was created by CASEL. Now, CASEL is the Collaborative for Academic, Social and Emotional Learning. In their words, CASEL is a trusted source for knowledge about high quality evidence-based social and emotional learning, CEL. CASEL supports educators and policy leaders and enhances the experiences and outcomes for all pre-K-12 students. They have created a framework for CEL, for social and emotional learning, which is widely used. I won't go into detail here about all the different aspects and different competencies of SEL. I will only say that they assume that there are 5 different SEL competencies, and they are, as you can see on the screen, self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making, and self-management, okay? And this can be developed at different stages, as you can see in the diagram. Classrooms, schools, homes, and communities. Okay. Okay, right. Now, see that the neons is environment. It's a bit more. It goes a bit further than that, yes. But this is interesting. This kind of approach from Cassell. Now let's go a bit further and look at each of the competencies which are shown on the diagram. So you've got self-awareness, social awareness, responsible decision-making, self-management, and relationship skills. As you can see, empathy is subsumed under social awareness, together with perspective taking, appreciating diversity, and respect for others. I would say these are absolutely crucial sub-competencies in the classroom and beyond. From my point of view, relationship skills such as teamwork, group work, collaboration rely heavily on the capacity of students to empathize, to appreciate diversity, and to have respect for others. I would even go as far as to say that empathy is the very foundation on which other SEL competencies are built. Okay, so from my point of view, empathy is central, even if it is subsumed under the social awareness competence. I would say that it's crucial and central for all the other social and emotional competencies. In a recent book, which is called All Learning is Social and Emotional by Nancy Frey and colleagues, they've got a different approach to this SEL thing, okay? So what they say is that social and emotional learning, rather than being taught, it should be integrated into the very fabric of teaching and learning, into the everyday life of teachers and students in schools. Now, as you may remember, if you remember well, Cassell has got 5 different competencies. Now, these authors think that there are 5 different competencies, but they're a bit different, okay, from the ones which Cassell puts forward. Now, they say there are 5 different areas: identity and agency, public spirit, emotional regulation, cognitive regulation, and social skills. And as you can see on the diagram, on this diagram, empathy comes under social skills, together with, for example, pro-social skills, sharing, teamwork, relationship building, communication, and relationship repair, okay? So from their point of view, empathy comes down to being a social skill. And this, as we know as teachers, is very, very important if we want to have a productive classroom. A group of students who work together and empathize with each other so that they can work more and better. So we've got 2 different approaches to SEL here, but actually they go the same in the same direction. Now let's have a look at another factor here, which is the last one before I go on to show you some examples of what can be done in and through English language teaching. I don't know if you're aware of Education Endowment Foundation. The Education Endowment Foundation is very, very useful. It's UK based. And what they do is to go through all the studies which are being done on education and read all the metadata there is on education. And from there, they make decisions and they see whether the approaches are cost effective, if the evidence is strong, and what impact they will have on education. And this is measured in months, okay? If you don't know it, have a look at it, go to their website. It's really worth the effort. Now, what Education Endowment Foundation says, how effective is empathy initiatives and projects? They say, on average, cell interventions have an identifiable and valuable impact on attitudes to learning and social relationships in school. They also have an average overall impact of 4 months additional progress on attainment. Cell approaches have been found to be effective in primary and secondary schools and early years settings. Okay, and from their point of view, what they've found out is that from the cost effectiveness point of view, it's a 3 out of 5. Okay, so it's not very costly. They say that the evidence strength is 4 out of 5, which is very, very good. And finally, the impact in students' possibilities of learning, they would measure it in 4 months plus in respect with other students who haven't been, whose empathy hasn't been developed. Okay, so please, if you have a look at them at their website, it's really worth it. They've got a toolkit, and it's really worth the look. Okay. Right, now we've covered a bit of ground here. Now we've seen what empathy is, what the empathy is not. We've seen why empathy is important. We've seen that empathy initiatives can be cost effective and have a real impact on students' lives as children, as people, but also as students. Now, I'll give you some examples of what can be done in the classroom, okay? Now, first of all, and this is the first kind of approach we can have, maybe with smaller kids, for example, or if you want to develop a vocabulary in this area, it's got to do with emotional literacy, okay? As you may know, some authors say that there are 6 basic emotions, while others contend that there are 7 basic emotions. Whatever. The interesting thing is to use this kind of material to develop emotional literacy among students, and also, of course, as English teachers, to use English to teach them about this. So that's a first possibility, to go through emotional literacy with them. Now you can go a bit further and speak about the traits which can be discovered or detected in people's faces when they are sad, when there is contempt in their faces, or surprise, or anger, or disgust, or fear. If even so, you want to go even a bit deeper and a bit further, why not talk about the seven universal facial expressions? There is a very interesting YouTube video for this. I'll leave you the link here. By the way, in the final slides, you'll get the link to I share this presentation with you, so that's okay. Now, let's go a bit further, even further. For older students, for more proficient English students, a complete list of human emotions and their real meanings. It's by Basil Kohn, and it's very interesting as well. So if you want to go a bit further, please do use this. It's very, very useful. Now, Brene Brown on empathy. This is very, very interesting. I'm really sorry that Zoom has got some difficulties in showing videos. It's all very intermittent. I've tried it before during the actual presentation. It didn't go very, very well. So I won't show it here. I'll just say that Brene Brown is a professor, a lecturer, an author, and a podcast host. She is the adult chair at the University of Houston's Graduate College of Social Work. This is very, very interesting. You must have a look at it, okay? It's got animations, okay? And she speaks through the animations, and she says very, very interesting things on empathy and how it can be learned. Now, the next piece, I've got 5 minutes, I think. The next piece is rather baffling, okay? I won't spoil it for you, but I must say I was rather taken aback by this. I wasn't expecting the final result of the experiment, because this is really an experiment in empathy, okay? I won't spoil it for you. I hope you have a look at it later on. It's a wise lesson in empathy. Now, the next bit, okay, I'll show you, comes from Class Dojo. I don't know whether you know Class Dojo. Class Dojo is an educational technology communication app and websites, like, for example, Edmodo or Schoology, okay? And it's directed towards primary school students. So it's similar to Edmodo, but it's got a very specific and precise audience. They have developed a set of 3 animations on empathy, which are really, really fun and useful. Have a look at them, please, please, please. Now, it's done in three sections, and each section then has got a set of questions. I'll show you the set for the first one. For example, what emotion does Mojo feel in the video? Why does he feel that way? What emotion does Katie feel in the video, and why, and so on and so forth. So you don't get only to watch the video, you also have the questions which can be asked students after they watch the videos. So it's very, very useful, very useful. I hope you have a look at it or at them. Now, if you want to go deeper and deeper and deeper, as you've seen, Krusnarik is a British philosopher, so he really goes deep into empathy. He proposes the concept of autrospection, and autrospection is the opposite of introspection. So autrospection is introspection, but directed towards the others. Okay, so it's rather useful for secondary school students, year 12, for example. Okay, so what do I do? Okay, right. Don't know what to do with that. So I'll come back to you. Right, let me finish this before we go on to Q&A. Now, this one is part of the common sense education. I don't know whether you know common sense education. It's got lots and lots of resources for all subjects, and it's got very, very interesting stuff. Now, in this page, you'll find 3 ways to build empathy with digital tools, which is not very common. It seems that empathy and digital tools, or the use of digital tools to develop it, does not come hand in hand, okay? So if you want to get ideas for your classroom, please use this, this website, 3 ways to build empathy with digital tools. The next one, another very, very interesting website. It's called Teaching Tolerance. It's got lots and lots of stuff on developing tolerance among students. Okay, so it's devoted to exactly that, showing teachers ways of developing tolerance among their students. It includes a lesson, as you see on the screen, a lesson plan on developing empathy. So if you want to have a ready-made lesson plan, please have a look at this. Another one. Now I've spoken about Cassell, okay? And they not only have a framework, they've got lots and lots of resources which can be used by teachers and students alike, of course. And they offer a lot of ideas for the development of social and emotional competence. The one shown on the screen has got to do with social awareness. And there are many, many ideas which can be used effectively with your students in the classroom. Okay, so if you want to have a look at it, I don't think you'll have access to good materials here. And finally, and I think okay, so okay, so finally, a site which is curated by Krasnodik, okay, and it's maintained by him, and it's got millions, well, not millions, but thousands, hundreds maybe, of materials and resources. It's called Empathy Library, and it's very, very useful. It's got lots of good stuff. Okay, thank you for watching. Okay. If you'd like a PDF of this presentation, please, you've got the address there. Okay. Thank you for watching. Now I'll take some questions now. I don't know how to do it, but
thank you, Zé. Okay. You have a question from Maria Cardoso. Okay. You have spoken about facial expressions. Isn't voice also a good way to promote empathy? We work a lot with our voice.
That's a very good question. I wouldn't know how to answer it though, because I don't know much about voice recognition and from an emotional point of view. Okay, I know there are frameworks for facial expressions. I'm sure there are also frameworks for voice expression from an emotional point of view, but I really don't know them. But surely it should be a very good way of doing things with students. And I also, I'm not sure, but I would say that voice and emotions is a cultural, has got a cultural ring to it, okay? Because, well, as you know, languages have got different voice pitches, for example. If you listen to a Russian speaking, it's not the same as, say, listening to a Chinese or a Japanese speaking. So it must go hand in hand with languages as such. As I say, I'm not sure about this. I haven't studied anything about this.
Well, I don't know if the participants want to ask you any other question. They are, as you may see on the chat box, they are thanking for your presentation and for your suggestions. And
let me just say, well, a final remark, okay? So if you want to teach empathy, you have to learn empathy beforehand, okay? And you have to develop empathy in yourself. And this can be learned, I think, and we as teachers can learn empathy, just as we can learn geography and history and linguistics, so that we can teach them about the geography of UK or the United States and the history of the UK or any other English-speaking country. So I think it's my belief that we can actually learn how to be empathic people, and after that, we can actually teach students to be empathic, and it really, really makes a difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zé. It's
Thank you.
true, completely true. As some of the participants were saying, unless you have your empathy developed, you can't pass it to your students or teach it somehow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There's any other question that you would like to Zé to answer now? No.
No? Okay.
So
Well,
thank you so much, Zé, for being with
so
us
much.
and
Thank
sharing
you.
all these links, food for thought, and to go on and searching for more information.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Zé. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye. Keep safe.
And you too. Thank you.